Good day, and thank you for tuning in to Initiating Insight with Sibongile. Welcome. Today we are talking about sex before marriage, or premarital sex if you like. And I am joined in the studio to do this by Mr. Muntu Ngcobo. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
And you wonder why we're talking about this today. It's one of those subjects I always refer to as those subjects that people don't want to talk about. And as we go to church, for those who do go, as in when I do, you are told all the time, sex before marriage is a sin. But what we don't realize is that whether we are told every day or every Sunday, for as long as you go to church, that it is a sin, or maybe you have seen it when in the Bible that it is a sin, or wherever you may have had it, it's not stopping anyone from doing it if they like. And preachers stand all the time on the pulpit and they preach this when they know their flock probably did it last night, and they're not married. So minage on Initiating Insight, we confront these issues because we strive to achieve the freedom of the mind status. Welcome. Muntu, who are you in a minute?
I'm just a gentleman that lives, likes reading, likes knowing things, and likes finding out the truth.
Okay, so sex before marriage, what does it say to you? Why do you even want to talk about it?
Well, it looks like as the world develops, youth tend to think that they can take their lives into their own hands. And what eventually happens is they go and make decisions about things that they do not fully have an understanding. And sex is one of them. And a lot of people go into sex before marriage, and that spoils a lot of things for their later life. So I'm here to advocate that there shouldn't be any sex before marriage. And
does it help in any way?
Do you mean does sex before marriage help?
Does you advocating that there shouldn't be sex before marriage help in any way?
Well, we are hoping that it should help, especially if they do understand the reasons why we are advocating that there shouldn't be sex before marriage.
But why are you advocating? So it spoils a lot of things later in life, like what?
Like, for instance, we know that every person that wants to get married, every man that wants to get married, prefers to get married to a virgin.
Okay.
And now, if there is sex before marriage, it means that there won't be people who are virgins, or there won't be ladies who are virgins. And besides that, there are lots of other problems that are created by sex before marriage. Like, for instance, you get a higher transfer of diseases, and you get unwanted pregnancies, and young people who are students get problems of going into school breaks, which are unwanted because they have to go and feed children. And then you find children that have to grow up before their time to become parents when they themselves are still children. And the children of those teenage children do not get the full
attention and nurturing?
Attention of their parents, because
perhaps as well?
Especially nurturing, because the parent has to go to school and come back, or the parent has to remain a teenager and do things that teenagers do and not have enough time to give the child enough attention.
Let's take away the diseases for now, not because they don't matter. But let's take away the disease. Let's take away the teenage pregnancies.
Yes.
Let's talk about adults.
Yes.
What is wrong there?
Well, there are challenges. One of the challenges is that people get into sex before marriage, and it eventually ends up there. It does not lead to marriage. And eventually a person goes around carrying a stigma of sleeping around. And later on they cannot shake it. Yes, it's sometimes looked at as if it is a private thing, but unfortunately, people tend to find out that the person has been sleeping around, and that spoils it for people. It actually destroys the person's stature, the person's reputation, and things like that.
So, if you've just joined us, this is Initiating Insight with Sibongile. I'm sitting with Mr. Muntu Ngcobo, and we're talking about sex before marriage. Yeah. Other than the fact that it does not stay private,
Yes.
is it because the reason it spoils a lot of things, your reputation and things like that, is it because it gets out? Or is it because a person carries that first within themselves? So in other words, uma kungekho umuntu okhuluma ngayo into, am I okay? For as long as I'm comfortable?
Well, there are private damages as well as I can perhaps call them. Private damages are that the person will always carry the connection that one has with the person. And then moving forward, that connection may not be severed. And, when a person gets into sex, Dr. Wayne Dyer calls it a very sacred dance of creation. And the sacredness of the act gets carried to the next relationship, and eventually they starts getting you start getting things like comparison between this person and that person, which would be prevented by a person getting married and moving on. But then those comparisons eventually destroy the sacredness of the act.
Why does it seem like sex is a responsibility, as a woman's responsibility alone? I'm referring to your statement of, men would like to get married to virgins. What about women? What about women? Don't women have a right to claim that they want to get married to a virgin too?
I think a lot of control of the sex act tends to fall on women. It tends to be the woman that must say yes.
Okay.
And men seem to think that they have an obligation of sorts to actually go out there and make the demand.
Yeah.
And the lady must then be the one who controls and says yes. And even though I don't want to say it like that, but men tend to be seen by society and everywhere as somehow having the obligation, maybe perhaps even the right, to go out there and try and do things and try and get women and try and go into sex. But as they go out there, then it becomes the obligation of the woman to also then try to curb the enthusiasm.
Okay, we need to take a break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.